Hi guys, I'm Chris and this is a tutorial on how to create an editable blurry background. So you've probably seen these things around on the web. They're very popular right now and they look a bit like this. If you just do a quick Google image search, you'll see what I mean. If you're watching this video, you probably know exactly what they are. And I'm going to show you how to create these guys. Not only create one, but create one that's editable. So what a lot of people do is take a photograph and blur it. Use a Gaussian blur or something like that, and it creates a nice blur effect. It's really nice for placing text on top of or using as a background image. But ours is going to be editable. The first thing we need to do is create a new file. So in Photoshop, click File, New, and then select a size for your canvas. So mine is going to be 1200 pixels wide and 600 pixels high. That's a semi-arbitrary amount. I just want a rectangle, so that's what I'm going to go for. And I'm going to create it at a resolution of 300 pixels per inch. So that's not essential. It's not mandatory by any means. This is just so that if I ever decide to use this image for retina displays or print, I can do that. It's always better to have a large image that can scale down than a small image that can't scale up. So let's go ahead and create that. Alright, the first thing I'd like to do here is fill the canvas with a colour, and I'm going to use what's called the fill layer tool. So what people tend to do that I've noticed in the past is they use the paint bucket tool to fill the background or fill the canvas, and the issue with that is that it's not scalable. So if we choose, let's just go here for a second, we'll go to the paint bucket tool. If we choose the paint bucket tool or the gradient tool and we fill that canvas with colour, whether it's a gradient or a solid colour, we decide that we want to increase the canvas size at a later date, you're going to see a border around the canvas or around the background layer where you had increased the size. So the benefit of this layer tool, the fill layer, is that it will scale up no matter how large your image is. So we'll go to layer, new fill layer, and I would like to choose a gradient. I don't want a solid colour at this point. You could totally choose solid colour, but we'll go for gradient for now. So let's just press OK here, and then we'll choose two colours. So I'm going to go, I like that vibrant kind of salmon pink colour, so I'm going to go from the pink to maybe a darker version of that. See if I can find something close. Okay, apparently not, but that'll do. So you can select individual hex values and RGB values, but I'm just doing this for quickness, so let's just say that's good. So the next step is that we're going to take this vector shape tool. So we can choose rectangles, rounded rectangles, ellipses, whatever we want. It doesn't really matter at this point. You'll see why in a second. So let's just draw a bunch of vectors. So a bunch of vectors, all different colors. And of course the benefit of vectors is that they are infinitely scalable. We can make them as big as we want, as small as we want. We can change the color of them, the stroke, the opacity at any point. So that's really what we want here, because after all this is going to be an editable blurred background. So let's just draw a bunch more shapes in this space. Make this one white. You can go in between all these shapes, really doesn't matter, and you'll see why in a second. So we want that one white, we want another one down here, make that one blue, another one down here, let's make this one, I don't know, yellow colour. And then you can take the rectangle tool, draw a bunch of rectangles down here, yellow one. So the whole point in this is to have a variation in colour when we do the blur. So we don't want one solid colour. If you do want one solid colour in your blur, just make all these shapes the same colour, but I want multiple colours, and you'll see why. So let's just do one more, kind of a weird green. Choose this pink colour. Okay, so we can apply a blur to these shapes. However, if we do that, Photoshop is going to ask you if you want to rasterize these shapes, and we don't want to rasterize them because that means that they become pixels only and they're no longer vector shapes, which means if you want to scale them up after they've been rasterized, they're going to pixelate and they're not going to look great. So we obviously don't want that. So one way you can get around this is to highlight them all, and you right click, select convert to smart object, and now all these individual vectors are stored in this thing called a smart object. And this smart object, we can apply filters to it, we can make it 3D, we can do all sorts of stuff, but it never affects the content, so it never affects all of the individual elements that make up the smart object, which is great for us, for what we're trying to do here. So let's apply a blur to the smart object that we just created. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and then you'll see here that we're getting this really nice rainbow effect in the blur. So the cool thing about this is we can select any of these individual blurred elements and change them at any point and as many times as we want. So let's say I decide that, you know what, I'm not happy with this colour here, that kind of looks greeny, yellowy, it's a bit muddy, I want to change that to a different colour. So we just double click the smart object icon, we find the shape that we're looking for, which in this case is called rounded rectangle 2. Of course you would name it something better if you were really working on this for real. So just change the value of that shape. So I want to make it blue. Okay, and then what we do is save this. So we have to save in order for the changes to take effect in the smart object. So you'll see there, it's changed to blue. And then we can also, if we are not happy with the background color, we can totally change that at any point. So I can make this an entirely different color, I can make it the same color, or roughly the same color, slight variation, make it any color in the palette that I choose. So that is essentially it. You just take those vector shapes, put them into a smart object, apply the blur, and then play around with it, see what you like. And also you can apply effects to the smart object itself. So if I say wanted a pattern overlay, like these diagonal overlay lines, just double click the smart object layer, give it a pattern overlay, choose from your series of patterns. I've got this one here that I quite like, and I want to make it say 70% opacity, and there you have it. It's super simple. I'm going to reduce that in fact. And if you want to put text on top of this, it looks great. Really looks nice against the multicolored background. It really brings the text out nicely. So that's it. Give it a go and let me know what you think.